Between the first 2 days of NFL free agency, and technically this isn't even the beginning of free agency, this is just the beginning of the negotiation period. Through these first 2 days, there have been a lot of quarterback deals, both through actual free agency and through trades. I've already made my video about the Geno Smith trade from Las Vegas's perspective. I am going to include from Seattle's perspective in this video because I think it's a much brighter situation for Seattle than it is Las Vegas. But in total, let's go through all of the free agent and trade acquisitions that involved quarterbacks through these first 2 days. So, as I said already, the Geno Smith trade from Seattle's perspective, they got the number 92 overall selection in the 2025 NFL Draft. More than likely, and including the fact that Seattle signed a quarterback that we'll talk about in a few minutes, this was just a great trade for Seattle. You very rarely are able to get a quarterback with that high of a cap hit to come off of your books. And very rarely with a player of that high of a cap hit Geno Smith is not a top 5 player at quarterback. I don't think he's top 10. I struggle to even think he's in the top half of the league in terms of quarterbacks. So from Seattle's perspective, I think this is a great deal. The other trade involving quarterbacks actually involves 2 quarterbacks being swapped for each other. Kenny Pickett from Philly to Cleveland for Dorian Thompson-Robinson and a 2025 fifth-round pick. Now, while it makes sense for Philly to try to get somebody like Kenny Pickett off of their roster, it makes even more sense to try to get somebody like Dorian Thompson-Robinson on their roster. Even including the fact that they get a 2025 fifth-round pick, this was a great deal for Philadelphia. You get a quarterback to back up Jalen Hurts, who probably fits more with what Philadelphia wants to do from a football perspective and from a cap perspective. It's almost $2 million less, and you get a fifth-round pick out of it. I think this was win-win-win for Philadelphia. And for Cleveland, they might have a guy that can push to be a starter in 2025. I think we all know, Kenny Pickett's not going to be a top guy at quarterback, but maybe he can be the bridge quarterback, and he can be a cheap one at that. And, if he performs well, maybe you have a guy for 3 or 4 years. But this was a move from Cleveland's perspective, I think, to just, let's just see what we can get out of Kenny Pickett and see if he's even worth a fifth-round pick. If he's worth even more than that, then you trade him later for even more compensation. Now, where a big piece of the conversation is going to revolve around the actual free agent signings of the quarterback position. Now, you've got some guys that are going to be backups. You have Jacoby Brissett, Zach Wilson, Nick Mullins, and Josh Dobbs. It's guaranteed that those guys are going to be backups. They're going to be valuable in their positions. Zach Wilson has a really good chance to play with Tua Tagovailoa's injury history. Josh Dobbs has a very good opportunity in front of him to be a mentor at the position. And guys like Nick Mullins and Jacoby Brissett, they really are just there to be extensions of the coaching staff. The 3 big deals that happened. One of them was today. Daniel Jones, 1 year, $14 million, $13 million guaranteed at signing. This might go down as one of the worst free agency deals of the 2025 offseason. We know everything there is to know about Daniel Jones. He's very athletic. If you put everything in front of him perfectly, he can get a team to the playoffs. If anything goes wrong, it is not happening. And especially when you consider that Indianapolis lost their center, Ryan Kelly. They lost one of their guards, and Will Fries. This makes no sense. That's not even including the fact that you already have Anthony Richardson on your roster. Now, I brought up that Dorian Thompson-Robinson probably fits more of the backup role to Jalen Hurts than Kenny Pickett does. I guess Daniel Jones fits more of the backup in terms of play style than like Joe Flacco did last year. But what really is that saying? Anthony Richardson has had no ability to actually put a full season together. Anthony Richardson has shown no ability, even when he's been on the field, to make proper decisions when they've been needed. both in terms of putting himself in danger and putting the team in danger. And now you back him up with Daniel Jones. This makes me think somebody else has to be in the cards, whether it's a draft pick late in the draft or it's another free agency signing. But this one just made no sense to me. I mean, $14 million for a guy who, yes, is 28 years old, but like I said, we know everything there is to know about Daniel Jones. I think we know he's not worth $14 million, to be a backup quarterback. That just doesn't really seem like the move that should have been made from Indianapolis's perspective. The two other big deals. Justin Fields to the New York Jets. 2 years, $40 million, $30 million guaranteed. This one I go back and forth with because I'm somewhat in the same boat with Justin Fields as I am with Daniel Jones. What have we seen from Justin Fields from a full 17-game season? If you want to say he got dealt a bad hand last year in Pittsburgh, he was put on the bench after Russell Wilson, was fully healthy, that's fine if you have that opinion. I agree somewhat with that opinion that maybe Justin Fields shouldn't have been benched. He obviously at some point needs to take full he needs to have a full realization of how athletic he is as a football player. And I think that was Pittsburgh's biggest holdup with Justin Fields. I think that was Chicago's biggest holdup with Justin Fields. As talented, as athletic, as incredible as he could be at times. It seems like Justin Fields hasn't fully grasped how talented and how great of a football player he could be. And I think that's why Pittsburgh was fine with moving on with him. And I think that's why Chicago was fine with moving on from him. I think, though, New York believes they're the team to actually do it. But it's a 2-year deal. This is as a prove-it deal could be. You don't have any reason, if you're the New York Jets, to tie yourself to Justin Fields longer than those 2 years that they already signed him to. And they don't have any reason to think that this can't be the team that he succeeds with. He has a very talented running back in Breece Hall. He has a very talented wide receiver in Garrett Wilson, who he should have some, they have some chemistry going back to their Ohio State days. And, maybe New York is the team with a new head coach, with a new offensive coordinator, and just really with a new staff from the front office down. Maybe they really think they're the team to do it, but I just don't know. I think we know everything there is to know about Justin Fields. As unfortunate as it is, maybe he blows everybody away and has, he leads the Jets to the playoffs. They're in contention for the AFC East, all of that possibility. But I just don't see it. The big fish of free agency this year, Sam Darnold, signs with Seattle 3 years, $100.5 million, and $55 million guaranteed. None of the money guaranteed at signing, if you believe that or not. I think Sam Darnold is much better than Geno Smith. And from that perspective, I actually really commend Seattle for saying, we're going to improve the position, we're going to get the best guy available, and we're not going to, 3 years, $100.5 million. That's a little lower than I think a lot of people thought it could have been possible for Sam Darnold. I think a lot of people thought there was possibilities of $40+ million a year. And that just, it didn't happen. And so I do think this signals Seattle is not taking a quarterback in the first round. They might not even take one in the second round. This might signal that Seattle wants to win now. Yes, they traded DK. Yes, they cut Tyler Lockett. And they had many other cuts and other moves they made throughout this offseason. But you look at the guys that they kept. They kept Leonard Williams. They re-signed Ernest Jones. They got rid of some of the guys that didn't want to be there, like Rayshon Jenkins. This could be a year from Seattle. You see San Francisco doing some of the things they're doing. You see, Arizona hasn't really made a huge splash. The Rams are going to be the team in the NFC West to compete with, it seems like, this year. Seems like the other two teams are going to have somewhat of a reset year. And again, that's just my opinion, but that's just kind of how it seems to me. So if you're Seattle, you get the quarterback that, he can make Jackson Smith and Jigba work. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba going into year 3, he's going to be one of those receivers that's going to produce no matter who is at quarterback with him. And, Sam Darnold, this is his age 28 year. If he's fully coming into his own as a quarterback, he's going to be back on the West Coast where he really succeeded at USC. He's going to be having a number 1 receiver that I think fits more of the profile. It is more comparable to Justin Jefferson than DK Metcalf was. And you hope an improved offensive line, an improved skill group. You do trade DK and you do cut Tyler Lockett, but hopefully if you draft somebody in the first round, like Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden, Luther Burden, you hope that improves, actually, that skill group. And you still have 2 really good running backs between Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. This could be one of those boomer bust moves. There's not a lot of money total. There's not a lot of total money guaranteed with Sam Darnold's contract. And so from that perspective, I think Seattle did a really good job. I think this was one of the better moves of free agency, was getting Sam Darnold. They proved that they're still in it to win it now. And I think they did it in a perfect way.